All right. Hey, yeah, that's right. Huh? I'll get you out of here quick. So, Active Directory Server 2016, yay! So the hardest part about this particular server is the removal of the DNS role in the first place. Now, here's the deal. You don't have to. You do not have to remove the DNS server role, but let me tell you why you want to. When you install Active Directory, if there is no DNS server present, Active Directory will install the DNS server as well as create both a forward and reverse lookup zone for you, as well as create the APTR, NS, what's the other one? There are like two more. MSDS, and a handful of records that you need for Active Directory to actually function. If you already have a DNS server installed prior to the addition of ADDS, it will assume you got this. Yeah, no. So when you take it off and put it back on, so you take it off and start Active Directory, you got to push numbers back in. That's it. All you got to do is redefine your ANPTR records. Those are 4 records that can be done in 2 steps. Right? You create your A record, you check the PTR box, click OK. That's one device. Do it again, that's the other device, and that's it. If you want a DNS record for your Windows 10 machine, it's a 3-step process, right? You just do it again with the Windows 10 VM name. That's it. So, I really recommend not skipping number 1, like at all. So, unless you can explain to me why you don't need to do 1, do 1. All right. You can. You do, yeah. So, yeah, you've got to have a pretty good understanding of LDAP in the first place to understand the records that you need to be able to query. Now, it's easier for us to just install ADDS and let that stuff be handled for us, and then take a list of the records that are created. And from there, you can work backwards. Yeah, these aren't going to be. Let's say I'm sitting back to directory. I come here and it's Active Directory. You want me to go look at the DNS or something? Active Directory. Those records reflect what I'm putting in here. Besides like the A record and PTR from like the actual network. The records will be different depending on your domain name. That's really the only difference between 2 different ADDS machines that are hosting their own records. The only difference is the domain name. But the records themselves, you'll need the same type and amount and placement. So overall, it'll mostly be the same. All right. So install ADDS. Make sure that goes through. Yeah, you don't get to that part till the promotion. So just make sure you install the role. There's really nothing much to that one. Just check the box and click next. Promotion is where it gets a little sticky. You just have to pay attention. So promote the server to a domain controller, right? That'll be that yellow triangle that pops up at the top of your server manager reminding you to do that. So don't forget to do that. Otherwise, your domain's not going to work. Use the domain name as in DNS on Windows Server 2016. So I'm expecting you to use the win.yourname.io thing for this. Leave forest and domain functional levels of Server 2016. The idea with this one is that if you have older servers, you want to match the forest and domain function level to the oldest server that you have. So if you have other Active Directory machines running Server 2012, you want to bring that down to 2012. Essentially, you don't want to have features enabled on one server that you cannot enable on another server. Otherwise, you'll break replication and things will just die. So, right. If you ever want to do a promotion of that, you're going to have to demote all of the old servers, add all of the new servers, and then promote those in turn. So it's a pretty hefty process if you want to change the functional level. But if you have old, decrepit, like 8-year-old domains, you probably don't want to lose all the things that you have in that domain. So it's a slow, grueling process to get it up. But then again, it is Windows, so, you know. All right, so when you're going through the last deal, make sure DNS, it's going to install DNS, right? Should be grayed out, should be checked. You shouldn't be able to change it, but it needs to be checked. If it's not checked, you probably didn't fully remove DNS prior. So make sure it is checked before you move on. Otherwise, you're going to have to demote your domain controller and then go back and fix DNS and then come back and do the whole process again. So be aware, you need to be installing DNS around step 3. So the real cool thing about Windows, though, is that whenever it creates any particular service, there's a script at the end of it that you can keep and use to set up a whole new server with those same exact settings just by feeding it a script. And the script is created for you at the end of this process. So when you're about to review and click finish and done and all that, click the view script button. It's a pretty short script. I think it's about 15 lines long, but it has every choice that you made throughout that entire process. So if you ever need to do that again, you never have to have a question of, well, what did I choose? That script will be there, and it's basically a rudimentary backup. When you install Active Directory, the first thing that you can do, well, actually, you'll do it in PowerShell, but you basically just install the Active Directory role and point it to this script, and everything else will be taken care of for you. So you never have to question what you did or how you did it. And even if you never use that script, it's fantastic documentation, right? Has every choice that you ever made. Never have to wonder, what is my domain functional level? Go look at the script. It's right there. It tells you what it is. And then take a screenshot of the contents of that script. And then it'll probably reboot at least once, maybe twice. So let it do that. Let it do that. Now, before logging in, take a screenshot of the login screen with the NetBIOS username combination visible. So when you log into that server for the very first time, it's going to have, it's going to not just have your username, administrator there, or whatever it is. It's going to have your NetBIOS name. And during the promotion process, it tells you what the NetBIOS name is going to be. If you change that NetBIOS name, the way that you log in will change. So whatever you change that NetBIOS name to, you have to have it exactly correct when you're logging in. So by default, it will be Win. It takes the leftmost name on your fully qualified domain name, right? So it's not one of those things where it officially has to be Win every time, all the time. A lot of times you just want the NetBIOS name to be the company name, right? So if you have a subdomain for all your domain stuff, you can change the NetBIOS name to be Leo's Co. or something, whatever. I don't know. So you can change it to anything you want to during the promotion process. Set your NetBIOS name to whatever you want to. Leave it as Win. I don't care. Note it, though. Note it. Like, actually write it down, whatever it is that you're using, because you won't be able to log in otherwise. Without your NetBIOS name, you will not be able to log in. And then your username at the beginning is going to be just administrator, and that's fine. We'll create some users later. So once you create a domain, any service that you had installed prior now has to be reauthorized. Right? Everything has to authenticate against Active Directory, which means that you have to get them shaking hands in the first place. So all that really means is go into the DHCP snap and right-click on the thing and reauthorize. So that's all you really got to do. But you have to do it before DHCP will ever start to work again. And since DNS got reinstalled during this process, you don't have to reauthorize it. However, if you decide to skip step 1, you will have to go reauthorize it. Keep that in mind. So DNS is not an issue unless you make it an issue. Take a screenshot. Cool. All right, take a screenshot of DHCP once you reauthorize it. Join Windows 10 to your new local Active Directory domain. Now, this step fully depends on whether or not your Windows 10 VM is asking the right guy about who is win.elchavez.io, that domain, right? So who should it be asking? Who should my Windows 10 VM be asking for the answer to that question? Which server? Windows Server 2016. So if you do an ipconfig/all and you look under DNS and it is not the IP address of your Windows Server 2016, you're wrong. It's not going to work. So your server is the only server in this entire world that knows the answer to that question. Nobody else. No 8888, no 1111. Those guys are going to look at you funny and tell you no. Mostly because they don't have answers to, what's the word I'm looking for? Public, or private IP addressing. So, it just won't work anyway. Now, for the fun part, you get to create 2 user accounts in Active Directory. Yay! Yeah, this is once you get here, you're home free. First one, first initial last name. So in my case, L Chavez. This is going to be the username that you should be logging into all the time. This is your daily driver, right? Anytime you log into a computer to sit down and do work, should be with this account. And this is the way that it works in the real world as well. Oh, it should work this way in the real world. So leave that as a standard domain user. So what I mean by that is just don't change permissions. Don't add it to any groups or anything like that. Where it is fine. And another one, that's just your first name. So in my case, that'd be Leo. You want to add that one to your domain admins group. This is the one that's going to be used to do any kind of administrative task. But you should have them separate. L Chavez for anything that you want to do, surfing the web, yada yada. Elevate to your first name only user account to do admin things. But other than that, you will not be in your first name user. And then yeah, so I want to see under domain users, both users, and then I want to see under domain admins, just the one. Extra user. Don't go like removing things from those groups. Anyway, then one policy. Create a group policy that will disable the guest account on any computer that joins the domain. Right? You don't want people logging in as guest. You want everybody to have an account of some kind. And that might be a communal account, something that you can control or whatever. So it might essentially be a guest account, but you do not want the guest account itself to be enabled on any machine. Right? That's the idea behind this. So I'll leave you to your own devices on that one, but I do give you some pointers. So configure the policy to disable the built-in guest account, blah, blah, blah. Highlight the policy in group policy, GPMC, Management Console. In the right-hand side, when you highlight that in the left, in the right-hand side, there's going to be like 3 or 4 tabs, and there'll be a Settings tab in there. Click on the Settings tab and expand everything. There'll only be one policy and one definition in there. Expand it all so I can see it, and it'll basically just say, guest account is disabled, enable, right? Like that policy is on, therefore the guest account will be disabled everywhere. Then, in your Windows 10 VM, run gpresult/r. You need to do this in an admin account. So log into your first name account to do this. And then under computer settings, which kind of gives you a hint on how to deal with number 9. Under computer settings, you will see whatever you named your policy show up underneath there. If it does not show up, your computer is not implementing that policy yet. So you are not done. Step 10 is not complete. If you named your policy disable guest, if you do not see disable guest underneath computer settings in the GP result R, you are not done. That is the moment where you can take a big old sigh of relief and be done with the week's work, right? All of that to set one policy. Yeah. All right. There's your screenshot list. That's really all I got for you guys. Do you have any questions? I love it. All right. That'll work. I'm happy with that.